Hello everyone and welcome back to Factorio. Grim Dawn is currently much more popular, so I'm focusing on that. I will very quickly make a bit of an announcement here. So this is the world I have been playing in so far. But I must admit I'm not terribly happy with it. I thought it might be more fun to have enemies on the map, but it's really just annoying me to a large extent. So I decided, instead of doing this stuff where I would place down huge amounts of wall and defense and such just to keep the enemies at bay. Yeah, by the way, in this new update the train station names are now sort of at a slant at 45 degrees. Yeah, I keep updating the experimental version I'm using, so there will be minor changes, but nothing too big. Sadly, I'm not aware of any way to modify the enemy existence after the fact, so I think I would be stuck with enemies in this map. And the problem is, basically, whenever my pollution reaches a new area, I would need to either kill all the enemies in advance, or I would need to go around and have all my base walled in, neither of which are particularly interesting or something I want to do. Not to mention that I have some issues actually providing enough resources to this base. I mean, the copper is doing okay since I tapped this. It's already using some, but it's okay. The iron, however, yeah, this vein's also running dry already, and I know, right now I really don't want to continue with this. So instead of just giving up on the LP, I thought, hey, I have a map that's in a much more interesting state. Why don't I go and play with that a little bit? Sadly, it has not yet seen the light, so yeah, a lot of it is quite dark. This right here, where I'm at, is the old base, much like the old base was in the initial LP map. It just has very inefficiently designed starting stuff, basically. So pretty much exactly like the other map. It started out all the way here with my first iron smelting and my first copper smelting, which I think is... Actually, I think it's gone now. Yeah. I'm still smelting iron here. It's not used that much anymore. My first patches. This is where I made my first steel. I think still mostly my only steel, actually. Doesn't matter. Yeah, these are some of my old patches that I've used. Just building stuff. And then, yeah, the only disadvantage I see with this map is that I've actually been generating it. Let's turn that off. I sort of messed around with the settings of ore patches, and it's led to a lot of these mixed patches, where stuff is very close together, like here, or literally on top of each other, like here. But I think that's actually a challenge that I would just deal with. It just leads to me having to do stuff like... Wait, this, okay. Stuff like this, where I've got a combined copper and uranium patch. So I've just made it so that whenever there's a mix of the two ore types on a belt, I'm just sorting them out using filter inserters, and then I also have the pickup stations modified slightly so that it can basically handle a copper train and a uranium train going at the same time. That's why I just saw something that was out of electricity, but Yeah, should be fine. Oh, it's daytime night, good. So this is the old base. This is just the way I usually do my initial bases, as you've seen in the previous videos already. It's all a complete mess of just, oh, I've got some space here, I'll put XYZ in that location. It's just doing slightly better than the one I made in the LP, because I spent a little more time trying to make my designs a little nicer. Not that they're in any way perfect or even close to it, but you know, they work a little better. So there's the red signs, I've got green signs, I've got all the sciences basically. It's temporary stuff that's not being used. Red circuits are obviously an issue. I think this is pretty much the same state that I was at in the other base. Maybe a little more advanced. I'm making high-tech science here. But keep in mind, this is making high-tech science very slowly. It's being provided by a single machine making the modules and a single machine making the processing units. The only reason it's backed up is because I've put a ton of productivity modules in it, which means it's crafting at half speed instead of the massively accelerated speed that I could get from using a ton of beacons and speed modules. But yeah, generally I don't think there's anything majorly new here. Yeah, and over here, kind of separately from the rest, I've set up a station that's really purely designed to make fast belts. Sadly, I don't have a radar back here, but I'm smelting the copper and the iron locally and processing that into the fastest belts, the blue ones. So express belts, undergrounds, and splitters. All of that's just being produced locally up there with the available resources because, well, I have everything. I have a small oil patch, I have copper, iron, and coal. Eventually it'll run out, but by then I think I will be advanced enough that I can easily fix it. And yeah, I'm currently researching the atomic bomb. That's why my advanced high-tech science is a massive bottleneck. It's by far the slowest science type I'm producing. So yeah, the research is going very slowly. It's all just temporary stuff, really, or rather initial stuff. I might never tear this down. I don't know. The rest of the train network is very similar to how you've seen it in the Let's Play world, though. Yeah, mining these ore patches. Because I have modules, I'm using productivity modules for everything. Making these quite slow, but I don't have to resettle my mining outposts so much. And that's why I just like it this way. Yeah, I'm just running around kind of showing the place so you know where we're at. Again, I'm playing on this map because it's just more interesting at this stage. But yeah, zooming out all the way, you can see I've got a ton of solar panels. All of these gigantic arrays are just solar powered. All the way, the standard layout that I'm using in this map. And that actually means that it's going down now, but I have 21,000 solar panels. Not enough in the very long run, but enough for now. And then I think this is my cold station that's really not being used very much. Over here I'm going to be smelting stone in the future, but right now it's completely unused. It's a huge drain on energy because all the beacons are constantly consuming energy. But I have energy to spare, so I don't care at all in the slightest. Up here is my nuclear fuel setup. And obviously it's turning nighttime again. There's some lights here though. So nuclear fuel, you use you need iron to make the fuel cells. You need the ore that's being unloaded right here. And you need, or rather you don't need, but this whole station here is purely to handle my burned out fuel cells to be reused and turned back into raw materials, so I get some more usage out of it. We can wait for a uranium train to come here, and then you'll see what this does. This again is not an optimized setup. It's just something I threw together kind of by myself. If I search for, oh, there we go, there's a resource train, that's lovely. It's not very fully loaded, but should be enough to see what's going on. So train unloads the uranium, it gets put onto these belts, and then it gets brought to these refineries. Now uranium processing takes 10 uranium ore and turns it into one output. The one output's going to be 0.7% of the time the good uranium, 235, and 99.3% of the time it's going to be the bad uranium, 238. So mostly, as you can see down here, we get the dark green uranium, and every once in a while you get the light green 235 stuff. Not very often though, that's not really the main way you get it. But it's all being combined and moved over here into my Covarex enrichment facility. And that's really the way you get your 235. You use this process, which uses 40 uranium-235 as a catalyst, and then turns 5 of the bad uranium into 1 of the good uranium and 2 of the bad uranium. So it's you need a lot of just sort of seed money, I guess, in terms of you need a lot of 235 to kickstart the process. But then you could put 40 in, you get 41 out, so you have a net growth. And the idea is that basically the 235 that I'm outputting, it all gets put onto this belt. And I'm pretty sure these belts do something, never mind. And I'm then running it through here on these yellow belts, which are very slow. I'm doing this so that if any of these centrifuges here need more 235 to basically do their thing, to run the Covarex enrichment process, then they will be able to grab it from this belt. And the belt should never rush past so that I'm using up 235 that I would need to do more Covarex. The centrifuges this way basically get priority. They're able to grab enough quickly enough that only 235 that is not needed for Covarex will ever get beyond the centrifuges. And then I'm just merging the 235 and the 238 that's left over on a belt, running it down here where it is combined into fuel cells. Again, this whole setup, because I didn't plan this out in any way, I just kind of built it as I went along. The whole setup is not optimized in any way, it just kind of, it works. And then, as you can see, it's already backed up nicely, because you don't need that many fuel cells. I have this thing here, it has way too many. It has about 10, 20, 30, 40, about 80,000 fuel cells. It'll take a long time before I use all that, but I just wanted to show you because the nuclear stuff is new in this patch, and it's kind of cool. Alright, so the reason I'm switching to this map mostly is because I've got a lot of the kind of boring initial setting up done. And that means I will probably move over to the left here. Again, I'm moving quite quickly. I have 5 of the extra legs. But even though the map is quite large, I'm afraid that's inevitable. Yeah. Sorry about that. I will cut this out in future episodes. Right here, I'm really just mining up the stone. Guess it's in the way. I have a nice, fairly open area here in the center. But I want to get rid of at least this ore patch, maybe even some of the iron ones, even though those will be a huge hassle. And I'm just taking the stone that I'm mining here, turning it into landfill, and then just storing a ton of landfill. One thing that I have no idea why it happens is that in this particular setup, I would expect the chest to sort of fill up from the bottom up. So this inserter here should always take the most and fill up this line of chests before the next one can really get anything. The only reason that what can happen, of course, is that there's too many items in a short duration going past, so he can't grab them all. So that means the next one in line will also get some. But it should always be the case that this one here gets more than the next one in line. But for some reason, this line here, even though it's powered, has no landfill in it whatsoever. The next one has 2 for some reason. And I can't think of why that would happen. I can sort of see that there could be slight discrepancies where if one item comes past, say, this line, and he picks it up, then he will be in motion and unavailable, and maybe there will be 2 items next to each other coming right after, so he can't grab them, but the next guy could grab 2. I can sort of see how that would happen, but I have no idea why this one's completely empty and this one has stuff in it. Especially why the one in the end has so much, 734. That could only happen if none of the ones in front could grab something. The only thing I can think of why the one in the end has more is because of me running out of electricity at some point, but I don't think that's happened ever on this map, so I don't know. Yeah, I have to be quite careful crossing these tracks. I did signal them myself and haven't had any accidents yet, but they are quite possibly explosive, especially when you get hit by a train. That's obviously fatal. There's an old iron mine, obviously no longer useful. Down here is where I'm making my fuel. It's a really bad setup. I just kind of plonked stuff down. There's no ratio considerations here at all. And yeah, just these 4 lines. Whenever my refueling train that I send around comes here, he gets fully loaded and sent on his way. Again, don't do this at home like this. I will do it differently in future. And down here we have some steam power. I use steam power mostly just for fun. I don't need the steam power, I just build it. And then all the way down here is my second uranium mine. I think, yeah, it has a radar. The difference with uranium mines is that they require sulfuric acid to operate. So I have to send a train here that basically brings in the sulfuric acid, and then yeah, all of these machines are producing the ore. Right, here is my pretty bad plastic production. This has usually been a pretty big bottleneck because my petroleum gas transportation system is very bad. This was the first patch in which fuel loading from trains was introduced without a mod, and I again did this just how it came naturally to me, and as it turns out this is a very bad way to do all that. It's just, it works, and I will be starting a bit bigger, better base. This one's just sort of the second seed base, I guess. Alright, next things then. Let's go up here. This is where I'm filling my petroleum trains. This is a little better. I've kind of made some changes here. This is now filling the trains directly from a tank into a pump into the train, which is faster. I'm only using 2 pumps per train wagon instead of 3. You could use 3, that would be faster. But this is at least a little better because I have these full tanks, so these buffers will be able to fill up a train very quickly, instead of having to rely on the throughput of the pipes, which is a lot less than the throughput of a tank and a pump. Here's the first sort of major station that really is required for a lot of other stuff. It's my green circuit production. Again, this has not got any ratio considerations or anything like that. I just gave it a ton of productivity modules. It should also get speed modules, but then the ratios should be different. It's a whole thing. Something I'll work on for the future, but really this is just meant to produce a ton of green circuits because you need so many of them. We're at 90 minutes, okay. This is mostly just a base tour. Just, I guess, live with it. Up here we have a second plastic production line. This is a little different because I'm not shipping in the resources, I'm using the oil that's nearby and the coal that's nearby. This just supplements the other station. In the long run it will obviously run dry because I'm not shipping in resources, I'm just using what's locally available, which will become less and less over time, especially because I'm not technically providing enough petroleum fuel for all these plastic stations. Okay, and then down here is the sort of the final product I'm currently building here, and that's my module station. 13,000, nice. This has a ton of processing units now. The ratios have changed. In a previous patch, when I built this, the productivity modules were different from the speed modules. So, let me check E. Right now, they you need 4 speed modules to make a speed module 2, and 5 speed modules 2 to make a speed module 3. This used to be 4. It's the same here. It's 4 and then 5, but it used to be different for speed. That's why this setup is different from this setup. I should copy this to over here and change it around to be speed instead of productivity, but right now I'm okay. Each of these buffer chests holds 500 modules, so I have 2,000 speed modules and similarly 2,000 productivity modules stockpiled. That should be enough for any build I'm currently making. Here's my iron smelting. This handles just under 20,000 iron plates per minute. It can smelt 8 fully compressed belts of iron ore. So even if all of these 8 belts are full, then this thing, assuming all the output would instantly be used, it could handle 8 belts basically. And I've got the exact same setup over here for copper, so exact same throughput. I think 19,200 is what the math comes out at. And here's another copper outpost. Again, I have multiple of each ore outpost to satisfy the needs of my base. Okay, let me just check the map. I know this is a little boring, but yeah, I don't think I need to go any. Actually, I do. Never mind. Yeah, let's go over there. Definitely the thing I'm most proud of on this map, because I've done it with 0 help, and it's not a perfect setup, but the ratios that I calculated myself were actually very close to ideal. Except I made one simplification. That's I was aware of it, that I was making it, so that's fine. This is where I'm bringing the fuel cells, by the way. The train still has almost 7,000 and the belt is full. You don't use these very much. They last quite a while. And that's my nuclear reactor. First time I've ever built one, and it came out with this design. It's not perfect by any means. But the main issue currently is that I'm not actually consuming enough energy to take full advantage of it. It's running at currently 1.1 gigawatts. I think it could run it more. Not sure of the calculation. So it has 12 reactors in this 2x6 setup, which is perfect for the neighbor bonus. The more active reactors are next to a reactor, the better it becomes, basically. The more energy it can output. And this is the best setup that still allows me to actually input and output from each of the reactors. If I had a reactor that had the maximum neighbor bonus by putting a 4th neighbor down below, I could no longer use inserters to get anything in or out. And obviously I want this automated, so not an option. So 2x6 in this case is what I'm using. Now the setup itself is not perfect. You have tileable setups now that are much better, that you just kind of plonk down next to each other. These are more useful. But this one, for the number of reactors, I calculated the number of heat exchangers that I needed, and it's pretty much optimized in that regard. So I'm using just the right amount of heat exchangers. What I have done is I've put 2 steam turbines per exchanger. That's not the ideal ratio. The second turbine will never be running at full power. Assuming I'm drawing enough power to actually have this run without backing up. Currently it's backing up because I'm not using enough power. But yeah, I think, I don't know what the exact ratio is. I did calculate it. It's certainly not one exchanger to 2 turbines. It's 1 point something turbines per exchanger. But this is just, it was nicer to set up that like this, so that's why I have too many turbines. More than I would technically need. And as you can see, during the day when my solar panels are powered up, the engines and steam turbines, they're just producing nothing because they don't need it. And here I'm taking the burnt out fuel cells and just bringing them back around. I also think I may have a few too many pumps, but again, I just wanted to be safe. But the ratio of reactors to heat exchangers is nice. I'm not wasting anything, I'm not wasting any energy. If I need it, worst case scenario, some turbines not running at full efficiency, but there's no loss associated with that except waste of resources. But resources are effectively infinite. Right, this is where I'm making my blue circuits. This is not really optimized in any way, but it's a setup I came up with myself, so that those are always a bit clunky because I haven't optimized them. But this is producing a decent amount of blue circuits, and I'm not using them for very much. That's why these chests are actually filling up nicely. Needs sulfuric acid, red circuits, and green circuits. And the red circuits are being produced over here. I think this is a more optimized setup. Well, we're already at 27 minutes, but it's fine. Using plastic, copper, turned to copper wire, and green circuits to go and make red circuits. And yeah, after half the red circuit production, I'm sort of balancing the belts, so that I'm actually using both sides, and then I'm merging those two rows into one, and these 4 belts then. Move over here to get loaded on trains. Ah, such a lovely sight. For the longest time, the red circuits were a real bottleneck, and I was never producing enough of them. But now that I've stopped consuming modules so much, it's actually had a chance to back up. This is where I'm making sulfuric acid. Again, this is not optimal in any way. I haven't even got beacons down. It's just iron, sulfur, sulfuric acid, a really badly designed buffer tank, and a really badly designed fluid loading station. Don't mind me. And here's where I'm making the sulfur from sulfuric, not from sulfuric acid, from petroleum gas and water. And what's this one? Oh yeah, that's the first plastic thing I've showed you. Okay. So I think that's about everything I've set up so far. The next base I will probably be setting up, I don't know, maybe here-ish I will start. The ore patches have already gotten pretty large. This is where I started, so the further away from it we go, the bigger the patches. So down here we have stuff like 39 million uranium ore, 26 million iron ore, this one's 63. There was 100 million copper one somewhere, I think. Yeah, here, 100 million copper ore. And similarly, I think there was a really big iron one as well. Not 100, but close. 66, maybe that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah. These will just be fueling my expansion, basically. And I don't know, maybe I'll move down here. I'm not decided yet, but yeah, just wanted to show you a quick base tour, I guess, of the base we'll now be working from. The advantage is quite simply that I don't have to deal with this, setting up this, and I can basically start fresh, so that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, I hope everyone's okay with this. I just don't like the biters anymore. I thought they might be fun, but it just got boring really fast, and the prospect of having to clear out more biters made me not want to record anymore. I'll still be focusing on Grim Dawn right now because that's much more popular, but you know, every once in a while there will be a Factorio episode. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you again soon. Bye bye.